Why the fuck are people talking about trading Riley Moss for A.J. Brown? Broncos country, it's your boy A&J. We're back with Broncos talk. I know I said in my other video I was going to do more other sports stuff, and I still will, but whenever these things come up, we definitely got to have this discussion because I got to say, man, I don't know why I'm hearing so much about this other than the fact that it's ESPN that presented this idea, specifically Bill Barnwell, who, not for nothing, I feel compelled to admit that Bill Barnwell is certainly a football institution, very knowledgeable, one of the brightest minds in all of sports media. But he couldn't have this shit more incorrect. I don't know any other way to say it. I'll go more into that here in a little bit, but I also do have to address this little notion that's also been going around that I'm hearing about, that the Broncos are making re-signing Alex Singleton a priority, which, to be perfectly honest, I'm not terribly mad at. In fact, I'm largely here for that idea. However, it doesn't need to be the first thing that the Broncos do in free agency. Not a shot in hell is that the case. And why it's being worded that way is far beyond me, but that just is the word that's going around right now. I mean, I'm not real sure why. I don't really agree with it as a priority. I would love to see Alex come back, especially after everything that he's been through and what he's meant to the Denver Broncos defense. But if I'm being perfectly honest here, the only priority I see, at least if we're talking the in-house free agents, I'm going to say is probably Jaquan McMillan. Especially given what he actually meant for the Broncos defense. And on top of that, all the timely interceptions that he got for us this year. I mean, we're going to prioritize Alex Singleton over Jaquan McMillan. Interesting. Not really, but still. Like, that's quite a wild idea. I don't know which one is worse, that or the A.J. Brown idea. But if nothing else, like I said, I don't mind bringing Alex Singleton back. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But considering that a priority has to be some of the most brain-dead shit I've heard in a while. Now, needless to say, I don't want to see the Broncos lose him and it turns out he's better there than he was out here in Denver, which I'm not really sure how likely that is, to be perfectly honest. But prioritizing that again over Jaquan McMillan and trying to find some way, which obviously this is probably the less likely thing to happen, but trying to find some way to bring JFM back? No, we're definitely not going that route. And even more than that, if there's anything that I consider to be priority when it comes to Broncos free agency moves, it's finding a way to get Breece Hall in a Broncos uniform, and then ultimately finding a way to get J.K. Dobbins back to complement Breece Hall in the running back room. That way we can continue to develop R.J. Harvey as potential RB1 down the road. But just the notion of Singleton being seen as a priority, much less a top priority, is just absolutely silly. Absolutely fucking silly, to say the least. And I'm probably being kind with my words on that one. But nonetheless, we'll look forward to seeing how all of that pounds out. We're less than a month away from the new league year, as I've been mentioning before, so I guess only time will tell on that one. That being said, it's actually mind-boggling that this is even being discussed, especially because I've said before, whether it's been in these videos, in social media threads, comment sections for other creators' videos, whatever the case may be, I'm actually looking at the draft as a point where I prioritize run stopping more than anything else, at least in the earlier rounds. And really the only way I go away from that is if somehow, some way, and I find there to be absolutely no shot in hell. Well, I guess I shouldn't say no shot in hell, but I don't see a realistic chance of Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon falling to number 30 in the draft. Now, let me be clear about one thing. If that were to be the case, absolute no-brainer and a half right there. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If he's there and the Broncos still stay at pick number 30, that's a slam dunk. Like, if you don't take Sadiq at that point, that might be the one decision that could be worse than making Alex Singleton a priority or top priority in free agency. But, again, that's something we'll see about when the time comes. What we're really here to talk about is this idea of trading Riley Moss, along with a second and fifth round picks of all things, to the Philadelphia Eagles for A.J. Brown and another fifth round pick. Why? Why would anyone do any kind of dumb shit like that? And again, I got all the respect in the world for Bill Barnwell. I feel like, again, I said before, he's an institution when it comes to talking about football, but absolutely not in this case. And if I'm being perfectly honest, this is the very definition of throwing shit to the wall to hope that it sticks. Like, for me, scheme-wise, I don't see A.J. Brown as a fit. Talent-wise, sure, but scheme-wise, I don't see where he fits any better here in Denver than he already does as of now in Philadelphia. And I think it's been proven at this point that was never a hand-in-glove fit, despite the fact that they actually won the Super Bowl with him. All I can really say at this point is just being perfectly honest at the end of the day when all is said and done. I've actually seen at least a couple of videos, posts, or different threads where a lot of people are talking about Romeo Doubs. They're also talking about Michael Pittman Jr. If either of those two wind up becoming available and we can get them much cheaper than we can get an A.J. Brown or even a George Pickens, why the hell wouldn't we do that? Dobbs, I feel like, is actually a really good scheme fit, but his talent levels actually slept on to the point to where, for all we know, he probably matches Pickens in that area. I mean, it may not have necessarily translated with the Packers to that degree. That doesn't mean that it wouldn't work here. And then thinking about Michael Pittman Jr., I mean, if he's not hand-in-glove fit in the sense that he's every bit the mold of the type of receiver that Sean Payton likes to have in his locker room, like, I don't know what else is. Like, it's kind of mind-boggling to me that we're even talking about this to this extent right now, especially for the fact that I can understand being high on Pickens. I can understand being high on an A.J. Brown, or even an Alec Pierce for that matter. But even though those are the top names that will be available upon the start of the new league year, that doesn't necessarily mean A, that the Broncos need to go after them, and B, even if they do and are successful in landing any one of them, that it's going to work out the way a lot of people are hoping it will. And I hate to admit it, but I mentioned Brees Hall. Even though he's every bit the scheme fit and just a fit all around in all the necessary ways you could possibly ask for the Broncos, doesn't mean that would necessarily work out either. I think it's far more likely, but it doesn't mean that it works out. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that we're the front runners to get him either. There are plenty of other teams that are going to have a great shot at it, and chances are, especially if we're prioritizing Alex Singleton, we might not be able to afford him in the long run. I mean, I don't think that's likely, but just hearing these things the way that I'm hearing them, I don't know. It's hard to imagine how all of this is going to work out, but I guess only time will tell. We'll see where all of this goes, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. I mean, let me know what y'all think down below. Am I the only one that finds a lot of this shit to be just ridiculous and just absolutely crazy? I know I'm not the only one out there. Like I said, let me know what y'all think down below. Help me out on that algorithm. Hit that like, share, and subscribe, especially if you enjoy the content. And also definitely hit that notification bell so that you know when more vids are coming through. With that in mind, this has been your time with A&J, and I thank you for spending it with me.